Hi, I'm Michael Ijen with In Focus. Joining us today, Raffi Bagdasarian. Raffi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is going to be a fun conversation. I know you have a lot of different experiences in the entertainment industry specifically and the technology space.
Just as a starting point, we'd love to hear how you got into the industry and where you are now.
In college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And for my senior year, I ostensibly just spent my entire school year working downstate in New York City. And that's where I really sort of cut my teeth on production in New York City. And I really, honestly, I was very lucky. And ultimately, it was a connection through Miramax. So that's how I broke into the business. It was really just, a little bit of luck, persistence, connections. I worked for a producer, for an A-list director, and then I worked for the Walt Disney Internet Group. I was overseeing a team of, maybe a dozen artists, designers, animators working on digital content. And some of the stuff we were doing was actually producing like short Disney films for mobile distribution in South Korea and Japan. And that's where I parlayed me from the entertainment side to the tech side.
How did storytelling play into the technology?
You gotta have both. One of the nice things about being in product development on the tech side is that you need to understand all of the stakeholders' interests, right? So you need to understand marketing, sales, distribution, finance, but most above all, the user journey. That was always what I found to be one of the most fascinating things is the user journey, which is the most important stakeholder, is the user. You can't coax them or coerce them because they'll figure it out and they'll have a bad experience. And as I was looking at the opportunity there and watching the industry evolve, I realized that a lot of brands want to get into the free ad-supported streaming space, but they really don't know how or what they should do. So Paket started off as a direct-to-consumer marketplace for subscription bundling. And there was a lot of interest very early on. We spoke with Disney, we spoke with Paramount Plus, we spoke with a lot of the major streamers. We realized the best opportunity here is to create an API for our bundling logic and open up that API to platforms and marketplaces so that they could use us for handling all the logic of bundling, but they can still use their own payments, their own identity, and we're just really handling the life cycle of that subscription amongst multiple subscriptions. So that's what Paket does. It's a TV engagement platform, but we really think that this new fast as a service product is going to be the crux and the core product that people want to use. The people that work in content development, their job is to be empathetic and find universal stories that connect with an audience. But in sales and distribution, it's more about numbers and data, and it's very easy to lose sight of who is your actual audience? And I would say that was one of the starkest contrasts when I went from the big studio to a startup, is that the studio was trying to establish a social presence with an audience after spending decades, if not a century, doing B2B transactions to reach consumers.
Because there is so much more content out there, it's so important to maintain an authentic voice.
Yeah, I even talk about that with some of our clients. A finance company might not typically be as exciting to a consumer, but it's always about how do we tell the story for that brand even and make it fun to watch.
And that's one of the most valuable things I learned from Disney was the value of storytelling. So sitting by the pool, drinking margaritas with John Lasseter, and I was asking him about story, right? This is a great opportunity to talk to a master storyteller. At the time, a lot of studios, Sony in particular, were trying to just make things 3D animation and it will sell. He never mentioned the technology. It was always about the storytelling. That was their laser focus. The technology was just a tool they chose to use to tell those stories. It wasn't the reason the movies were successful. In Disney, that's one of the things I learned there is that when you do your orientation, they stress it's all about storytelling. Everything the company does has to tell a story. I sat next to the director of fountain beverages at Disneyland, and even that, what sodas you have in different lands and how it's presented, it's all part of a story. So there's always a market for storytelling. That's a given. It's just that the blueprint has changed dramatically and it's changing very quickly all the time. The advice I would give is to be open-minded, focus on cultivating yourself as a human so that you can tell universal stories, and try to be as technically adept and up to date on the tool sets that exist as you possibly can. In many respects, you can reach an even bigger global audience for a lot less money than in days past.